Loomis Public School One-to-One Technology Initiative. Loomis Public School's mission statement reads, "In cooperation with family and community, our mission is to prepare all students to succeed as responsible citizens in a changing world through progressive educational methods." In looking at our school's mission statement, many key ideas of it are supported with what a one-to-one initiative would help provide for our students and teachers. Preparing all students means that we must look to provide success for every student no matter their background. A one-to-one initiative assists this idea by allowing for lesser privileged kids to experience technology they may not have access to otherwise. It also helps in differentiating and personalizing learning for each student. In today's world, being a responsible citizen covers a broader spectrum than just face-to-face interactions. With the increased connectivity of society through the internet and social media, it's important for students to experience and learn how to properly interact with others, both in person and online. In order to gain this experience, students must be taught and guided with classroom and online activities that provide learning opportunities and can be applied to real-life circumstances. To be able to use progressive educational methods, we must look to stay up to date with both technology and proven educational trends. Technology is ever-changing, so we must help students learn how to use and leverage that technology in learning and problem-solving skills. Our current technology situation in our high school, 7th through 12th grades, were one-to-one iPads with all students. The 9th through 12th grade students are able to take their iPad home each night after paying a $35 insurance fee each year. The 7th and 8th grade students leave their iPads at school in a cart each evening. And then there's also a 10-unit laptop cart that's available for students to check out laptops on a need basis. Within our elementary, we have one iPad cart with 20 units that's kept and used mostly in the 6th grade. Each classroom has a tray of 6 iPads for them to use classroom purposes. We have a 20-unit MacBook Pro laptop cart that is housed and used mostly in the 4th grade. And then we have another 20-unit laptop cart that's in the elementary lab that was just added recently. Additional technologies that we have in our school would be a 24-unit desktop computer lab for the secondary, 22-unit lab for the elementary, a 14-unit lab for business classes, and then in our library media center there's 6 desktops and 3 laptops that they use for journalism and other library functions. Every classroom has a projector, interactive projectors in our new edition, making it basically a smart board. We have digital signage displays. Each teacher has a brand new MacBook Pro along with an iPad Air, and then we also have many other peripheral and add-on devices through either the technology department or that teachers have requisitioned and used within their classrooms. So our goals and issues that we're looking to meet above and beyond our mission statement would be to give students the tools and skills needed to prepare them for their future endeavors, increase learning as well as technology experiences, of course increase scores in state testing and increase growth shown in their MAP scores. We also are looking to provide for the cycling of technology devices within a reasonable budget, and we'd like to provide a device that students can make use of post-graduation. And we also would like to see increased use of student technology devices as a learning tool. My proposal then for our movement would be to move towards Chromebooks with the 7th through 12th grade students. Why this change? Well, number one, I think Chromebooks work more seamlessly with the G Suite apps for education. They're built to work specifically with this, and although a lot of the Google apps will work with an iPad, they just aren't as friendly in that platform. Also, Chromebooks have a keyboard built right into them. And yes, we could buy keyboards for the iPads, but it's a big additional cost, and then the connectivity issues often end up leading to a poor user experience, and they're just not very handy. Keyboards is still a really valuable tool for content creation, and even though we can create with the iPad by doing video or just sound and touch interface, it really doesn't work as well for creation as more for consuming. Chromebooks and the G Suite apps work well for collaboration. The collaboration approach is built right into a lot of the Google apps. Google Drive really promotes teamwork and collaboration by allowing for several students to be able to read and actually create within one single piece of work. And those type of skills are really beneficial for students in their future education and in real life job situations. Number 4, the lower cost of Chromebooks compared to the iPads. iPads have come down a lot recently, but the Chromebooks are still cheaper priced. And with Chromebooks, there's many more suppliers and options out there. So pricing is a lot based on the features, and it seems like the pricing continues to be driven down. Number 5, the apps available for Chromebooks are catching up to the Apple App Store. Initially, when we went one-to-one, the App Store had many more apps, and Chromebooks really didn't have a whole lot of options for use other than being a web browser. But Google has really changed this, and they've really adopted an education mindset, and their apps are actually starting to be able to be used instead of traditional processing apps that were housed on laptops or computers. So they've opened up a lot in that area, and they've also added where they're now able to run Android apps, and that's opened up a whole nother world of apps to them. Chromebooks are more likely to be viewed as a learning tool rather than a gaming device by our students. The iPad's really intuitive, and the touchscreen and high resolution just made it kind of a distraction with games. There's tons of games out there, and often the students seem to see the iPad more as an entertainment device rather than a learning tool. Increased familiarity with possible classroom uses by teachers means that we'd get greater amount of device use. The Chromebook is more similar to a laptop and what teachers are familiar with, and this increased familiarity would lead to teachers hopefully using them a lot more in their classrooms. The ease of setup and use of shared devices. The iPad really isn't very easily shared between users. It has gotten better in that aspect, but it does require a lot of setup and extra work to make the iPad be able to be a shared user one. Easier management for teachers in the IT department. The Chromebook can be managed right in the G Suite admin for education. It's something that we already have set up. Students are already set up with a Google account. For iPads, we end up having to have them set up an Apple ID, and it's through a whole separate service, and we don't have a lot of control. So this would be easier with Chromebooks. My process and timeline for this, just some general overview. Of course, ideally would be all one platform in our one-to-one. As the IT person, that would be easier. We wouldn't have 2 platforms, one management package. I think this would also hold true for teachers, especially teachers that have varied grade levels in class. It'd be easier if they're all one device. But I also would like to see how Chromebooks would help within our school and how they'd work for us. Thing with this is if we were to do a large change for all 7th through 12th grade, it would have a huge initial cost of $25,000 to $30,000. And the other thing with this is it would mean we would have to be going all in, and there wouldn't really be that option to maybe look in the future and go, nah, this isn't what we necessarily were hoping for. So what I would propose is that we start by making the change for 2 grade levels each year. The Chromebooks would be purchased over the summer months so they could be ready for students to begin the school year in August, and we would start with August of 2018. If we allow graduating seniors the option to buy their Chromebooks, we would be looking at a 5-year plan. The option of having graduating seniors be able to buy their device is something that we talked about way back from the beginning of our one-to-one, and the problem has just been that the school really couldn't afford to absorb that cost in trying to replace the iPads, so we've never actually put that into place. So with this, by the beginning of 2022-23 school year, we would be all iPads 7th through 12th. This would take a little time, but there's some benefits to that, and that we wouldn't have that large spending purchase right all at one time. It would be spread out. And in addition to this, it would also give us a chance to evaluate the Chromebooks and how their use is working within our school and determine our future plans. We could either expedite it and go a little faster with the process, or we could change plans sometime in the middle without having a huge cost investment. So here in year one, some of the things I'd like to show, we'd be looking at purchasing for 11th and 12th grades, a few extra devices for replacement of devices sent for repair, and just as some spare devices when we have damages that need fixed. Would be about 30 Chromebooks for this group and would have an initial cost of $9,000. What I would propose this first time is that we would use the REAP fund money, as we have just over $25,000 in this fund that can be spent on technology and many other areas. With this, we would still have insurance payments of $35 a year, would bring in about $3,000 at the beginning of the year. And then if the seniors were to have an option to buy for $100 this year, they would bring in another $1,600. We'd put all that money into our current insurance plan money that we have an account housed right within our school, and then we would build that up over time. So really the devices cost for the first year would be just over $4,000. Putting these payments in that insurance plan is going to allow it to build up, and we can use that in the future. So with this, we'd also see that we would have 27 iPads that would be able to be reissued. What I would propose is we put 20 of those into a cart that would be used mainly for different class times. If a teacher had a project that was more iPad specific, they could come and get that cart and use those. And then we would have another 7 that I could disperse throughout elementary classrooms, adding to their devices. In year 2 and 3, basically the same things happening, just purchasing for the next group. You can note that the price of the senior buy option did go down $25. These Chromebooks would be another year older, so I felt like that was a reasonable way to go about that. The only other changes are basically due to class numbers, but it's going to cost about $8,000 at the beginning of the year, recoup around $4,000 between insurance and the senior buy option, so it costs about $4,000 a year. By the end of the year 2, I would think that we would have a pretty good idea of what our school's feelings were, and if we wanted to expedite this process and go a little faster, maybe use some more REAP money to do this in the following years, or we could even use insurance fund money. And then by year 3, I think we would have a good idea on if the senior buy option was really something that was working or if it was worthwhile or not. So that would be something we could look at. Year 4 and 5, basically the same thing if we were to stick to this plan. Notice that year 5 is going to cost a lot more due to the 20 extra kids. The buy option of the iPads is down to $50 because they are another year older. So basically shows the same thing as the past, just finishing it out should we not decide to expedite or do anything different. What we might see with our new Chromebook initiative. Challenges and worst case thoughts. We need to look at these. Chromebooks aren't well liked by the students and the teachers, and so they just aren't used. And maybe that keyboard we will find isn't as beneficial as we were led to believe it's going to be. Another issue might be the durability of the Chromebooks and if we would experience higher maintenance costs. We've really been low with that with iPads. The challenges of having 2 different devices and platforms within our school for a couple years and having to deal with issues with that. And also, long-term, the length of service of the Chromebooks, and especially in the later years of this plan. Is the Chromebook going to last for 6 years as we get in the future, or is it going to be a 3-year device? Best case thoughts and scenarios. Of course, we would hope for improved use of our technology device as teachers and students would work together and use it as a learning tool. Student learning and test scores would increase, and we look to accelerate towards being Chromebook 1-to-1. The students and parents both like the opportunity to purchase their device for the future, and that could translate into careful handling and better treatment of the device, so less damages. And also that the device will be used more to extend learning beyond the school building rather than just being an entertainment device once it's outside the building. So there could be positives and negatives to this. It appears that the positives would outweigh the negatives, but that's something we'll be able to look at by doing it kind of at a smaller scale each year. So my final thoughts on this would be that our iPad 1-to-1s provided tons of great experience, but if we were to make this switch, I think the addition of the keyboard would make it easier for a lot of classes to make better use of the device, and it's something that we can spread the cost out and be able to reevaluate and look at it within a couple years and know which way we want to continue.